Hi guys, it's Clarissa from the Crafty Metal Sister, and today I'm going to be recording a fall craft that I'm doing for you. It's a pumpkin button craft, or button pumpkin craft, however you want to say it. It's going to be pretty cool. I'm going to list all of the materials that you're going to need on the video, so you'll have to stay tuned for that. But I'm hoping it turns out great because I've been wanting to do one of these for a while. It shouldn't be too difficult, so I hope you'll watch, follow along, and remember that if you make one, you can show me by either posting on Twitter or Instagram. Tag me at TheCraftyMidSis, or you can also email me at clarissa@thecraftymiddlesister.com. Okay, all right, let's get started. All right, guys, I'm gonna start the project. First thing, I'm gonna go over a couple of the materials that you're gonna need, and I'm hoping that you can hear me okay, because this camera it never seems to want to really pick up sound. So don't think I'm like shouting at you, but I kind of almost have to. All right, so anyways, what we're gonna use for the background, okay, you're gonna need a piece of cardboard, and make sure that it's a piece of cardboard that has some body to it. Okay, you don't want something that's going to be real flimsy. All right, so you grab a piece of cardboard, and the size that I chose, I'll be honest, I did not even measure this, and I'm just going to grab a measuring stick right now. I just kind of want to see how long it is. Okay, this one is like 9 1/4. Okay, like 9 1/4 by 13. Okay, so there's nothing scientific at all. So if you want to do a 12 by 12, if you want to do an 8 by 10, the main factor is once you choose your size, okay, you're going to have to create your pumpkin on that size. So if you want a huge pumpkin, you're not going to be able to choose like a 6 by 6 or 6 by 10 or anything like that. You're gonna have to choose a large enough background because your pumpkin is gonna go on this background. My pumpkin is gonna be a little wider than it is tall, which is why I'm okay using a 9 1/4 by 13. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we are going to take our cardboard, okay? Then we're gonna take our background fabric. Now, here's another thing where if you have fabric scrapped or scrap fabric at home, that's great because you're only gonna need enough fabric to cover the front of your cardboard with just enough extra to fold over the edge, okay? So you don't have to go out and buy like a whole bunch of fabric. If you don't have any fabric, you may have to. And even then, you can probably get away with like a 1/4 yard or something like that. It all really just depends on the size that you want your background to be. Okay, now I'm suggesting using a neutral background. This fabric that I have, it's like a tan color. It almost reminds me of like a really nice burlap, even though that's not what it is. As far as fabric goes, it has a little bit of roughness to it, but it's still soft. It just really reminds me of like a fall burlappy type material. And that's why I chose it. All right, so what I'm gonna do is, and I actually did iron it, even though some of the wrinkles came back, which irritates me, but hopefully when we bend it over and glue it to the cardboard, it'll be okay. All right, now, so on top of the fact that we need fabric and our cardboard, okay, we're also going to use batting, okay, because I want a little bit of a cushion between the fabric and the cardboard. Now, my favorite batting is the Warm and Natural, Warm and Cozy batting, but you can purchase any batting that you find. They sell it on the roll, they sell it in bags. You know, whichever kind floats your boat, whatever's cheapest, you know, you can decide. If you don't want to go with batting, one time I purchased this felt for a project, and I almost thought that I could use it, but it's just a little shy, not quite long enough this way for my cardboard, but that's okay. I'm gonna use the batting. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm going to cut my fabric around my cardboard, and nothing scientific. I'm cutting maybe 3/4 to maybe not quite an inch past the edge of my background, my cardboard. Okay, and let me just kind of trim up this section here. Okay, because this is going to be folded over, okay, so that we have the front to work with. Okay, so once we get that part cut, you're gonna take your batting, okay, and you're gonna lay it down, and then you're going to cut a piece of that, and let me see if I can find one that doesn't have string and straggles all over it. I literally just dug this out of my scrap container, so it's kind of a little bit of a mess. All right, nothing scientific. We're just gonna cut the batting. We're just gonna do it the same size as the background. Technically it could be a tiny bit smaller, but hey, we're making this as easy as possible. All right, take your cardboard and just lay it on top like that, okay? Make sure that you pull the batting not tight. You don't want it to, you don't want to pull it so tight that when you release it, your cardboard bends or anything like that. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we are just going to take a type of fabric glue. You can use a glue gun. You can use my favorite glue, which I actually have on one of my First Friday Faves posts. This is the 3-in-1, but a lot of times I just use the fabric tack, but this is the 3-in-1 from them. Still just as great. Love it, love it, love it. Favorite glue of all time. And what we're gonna do is we're just gonna tack down this this batting, okay? Now, if you are going to use fabric tack or the 3-in-1 and you have your nails painted like I do, you are gonna have to really be careful because the glue will eat the nail polish off. So you wanna really be careful there, okay? So I'm just gonna put like a bead of glue along the side, along the edge, okay? And then I'm gonna fold it over and press it down, okay? And you may have to hold it in place, which is perfectly fine. We're probably gonna end up setting it somewhere and putting something on it for a couple minutes just to get it to stick. Make sure that it adheres really well because the glue might absorb into the cardboard. Okay, so we're gonna make sure that we don't have any wrinkles in our batting, but like I said, we don't want to pull so hard that we bend our cardboard, okay? So this is just, you won't even see that, okay? Because once we glue the other two sides down. Okay, and then what we're gonna do is, it depends how you wanna do your corners, okay? To make life easy, was just going to do something very simple like that. If you are more artsy-fartsy, whatever, you can, miter your corners, do however you wanna do it. I think what I'm going to do for the project think I'm going to, let's try this. I'm going to put my glue down, okay? Bend it down, okay? Okay, so I just went along both sides, left my corners. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to just kind of like, oops, see, now I'm going to lose some polish there. We're just going to smush those corners down. I cut them off because I honestly don't, I'm not really worried about them because we're going to have the fabric over them and they're the back anyways, so who cares. So I'm going to put some glue in there. I'm going to smush it. And, okay. Okay. Ah, can you see okay? Pull that over there. Okay. All right, so once we get those smushed down, and I think that's a technical term, smushed. Once we get those smushed down, and here's something that's fun to do with this glue. Like when you get it on your fingers, if you rub your fingers together, it kind of balls up. Right here you can see I pulled off some nail polish. Can you see that? Right there. So I'll probably have to go wash my hands soon. Okay. All right, let's do this one differently. Let's... All right, let's make it up on the fly. All right, let's make sure we have enough glue. Okay, and then we're gonna fold this side down. Okay. Okay. So I'm gonna do two different corners and then you can decide which one that you like better, that you're more comfortable doing, okay? So these three corners, I kind of like tucked in the corner and glued it down. This one I cut it. I cut it like that, which actually might be the better way to go because look how much nicer that is compared to like these. The only thing I'm not concerned about these because this is going to be the back that's not even going to be seen. Okay, so once you're finished, and you can even see, look how crisp that corner is compared to like this corner. Okay, let me just crisp this one up a little bit more. Okay. All right. Okay, once that part's done, we're going to take your fabric and then you're going to have to choose side. Now, if you chose a fabric that you can totally see the right side and the wrong side, then you're good. Mine doesn't really have a right or a wrong side, and if it does, I can't tell the difference. So I'm just gonna pick the side that I like the best, or that maybe has the least amount of fuzz on it. I'm gonna use this side. Okay. In order for this fabric to stick to the batting, I'm gonna put a little dot of glue right in the center. And I'm not concerned about it bleeding through or anything like that, okay? Because you're gonna see it, okay? But I'm going to make sure to put a button over that, okay? But that way, that part's not falling away from the batting, okay? Because the buttons may tend to be slightly heavy on this fabric. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. Now we're gonna glue the fabric onto the batting, okay? Now here's where you're gonna pay maybe a little more attention to your corners, okay? I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to probably do it like I did this corner, only because I want to make sure that the corners are pretty straight for when we put the frame on it, okay? So sorry, I keep picking glue. So I'm going to start with the top section. Okay, and I'm just gonna put a bead of glue along. Okay. And then I'm going to fold the fabric over. And remember that this is fabric glue, okay? That is made to hold fabric. Okay. So, yeah, and you know, one of the things that you're probably gonna notice is that your edges are not 100% straight, and that's perfectly fine. Okay, now I'm gonna do the bottom. Okay. Okay, we're gonna fold that part up. Okay. Okay, work on your edge, just pull it up to get any bumps out if you want. Like I said, nothing has to be perfect unless you're a perfectionist, which technically I am when it comes to my crafts, but maybe not quite as bad as I used to be, but still, when I was selling crafts, when I was making them and selling them, I was a total perfectionist. Like everything had to be perfect in my eyes. When I do them for myself, not so much. Okay. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our other corners, okay, our other sides, and we are going to fold them over, okay? So what we can do like what we did over here, up in this corner. If we cut that, okay, we can either cut it and then fold it, or however, you know, you want to do it. We're gonna cut it like that, okay, and then I'm going to put a dot of glue on the corner and take the bead the whole way down. Okay, want to stand in the light. Okay. See how nice that worked? Okay. And then we're just going to do the other side. I'm gonna cut it there, and then I'm gonna put a glue bead on the corner and take it and run down the side. Okay. Make sure you have enough. Sorry if you hear the music in the background. I probably should have turned the TV down, but I have a horror movie on, and it's a little loud. A little louder than what I had thought. Okay, so okay, we're just gonna squish those down. Okay, and then we're gonna give them a minute to dry, and when we come back after everything's had a chance to cure a little bit, we're gonna start on the button. Okay, so we're back and everything is looking pretty good. It's nice and dry, and we are ready to start making our pumpkin shape. All right, so probably the biggest issue you may have with this project is finding, sorry, I have something in my eye, is finding enough orange buttons, okay? I collect buttons, I love buttons, especially like older buttons. I do have newer buttons, but I think they still are packed away, and they are one of the things that has never gotten dug out when we unpacked the craft room. But luckily I had enough orange, or in the orange family buttons, in my old ones, that I could come up with enough to make my pumpkin. Now, you obviously don't need to have just orange buttons, okay? And I wanted to find buttons that were either orange or in the orangish, yellowish, tannish family, okay? So that's pretty much what I did. I went through all of my old buttons and found peach and orange and tan and almost even reddish, pinkish colors that I figured, you know what, it's close enough to orange that it really is, it's still kind of in the same family, so it's just gonna work. The other thing is size. I am trying this with different size buttons, and we're talking pretty extreme differences in sizes. I have, you know, a button this size, and I have a button this size. So we're gonna see how they look, how it turns out. I even have some squares. Okay, I mean, that's definitely different, but we're gonna try to use them. Another thing that I was really not sure if I was going to use, but I've decided I am, the buttons that they don't have the holes going through them. That one's broken, but They, the way that you attach them, like when you're using them on an item of clothes, is that you sew them, and you'll have to excuse all the glue on my fingers, but I actually did wash them, can you believe it? But, so I wasn't sure if I was going to use them because they do stick up and they're going to turn. But because we're using the glue to glue the buttons down, I think we'll be safe. I think we'll be okay. They'll stay nicely upright, and I don't think we should have an issue. Because I do have a good bit that are like that. And that was actually kind of like yellowish. So, and that's why I said you don't have to just use orange buttons, okay? Don't be afraid to experiment and have fun. Now, for those of you who must have orange buttons, you can go somewhere like Joann Fabrics, you can go to Walmart, you can go anywhere that sells buttons, and more than likely you can probably find a pack of orange buttons. I know I've bought packages of buttons in specific colors. So they're out there. You could probably even order them on Amazon, to tell you the truth. But I wanted to do mine using vintage buttons, and that's why I decided to root through all my button jars. Now, those of you who want to use vintage buttons, and you may not have enough right now, this is an item that you can find at local flea markets or yard sales. Now, I will tell you, buttons are not cheap. And when you do find them at, say, a flea market or yard sale or something like that, you might pay an arm and a leg, okay? So like you might be able to find a jar of buttons, and I'm gonna go grab one of mine, and it could be anywhere between $10 and $15. Now, if you're lucky, you're getting a nice jar with it. And let me grab one of mine. Okay, so this jar of buttons right here, I did purchase, and it had the tag on it. There's another tag that was on it, and I just never got rid of that. But a jar like this, if you could find a jar like this under $10, I say grab it. Because a lot of times you're gonna pay upwards $10, $15. You're gonna pay somewhere in that area because they're just not cheap. And especially if they're in a jar, people want the money for the jar and the buttons. So, you know, when you're out somewhere, you know, doing your flea marketing or you know, what have you like that, and you do come across them, I would definitely snag them if you can find them for less than $10. Now, I've seen littler jars full of buttons for like $8, and it kills me. Like, I don't want to spend $8 for a little jar of buttons. Depending on what the buttons look like in them, okay, maybe. So use your own judgment. Either way, to make the project, you're gonna need buttons. So whether or not you do go out and buy new ones at the store, which is perfectly fine, or you use buttons that you've accumulated over the years or have bought at flea markets, it's all completely up to you. Nothing's right, nothing's wrong. So with that being said, let's get started. My pumpkin is going to be, like I said, in the orange, tan, yellow, reddish family. And then I also pulled out some green buttons, greenish, grayish, brown. So we're gonna just kind of put those to the side because those are going to be part of my stem. Okay? All right, so let's start assembling the pumpkin. Now, there is not going to be a right or wrong. What we're going to do is we're going to just start placing, oh, here's the other thing. My older buttons that I have that have thread on them, I myself like the look, I'm not cutting the thread out. Unless it's long, I'll probably cut it off, but I'm not going to take the thread out of that. I want to keep that in there. So what you're going to do is you're going to just start assembling your buttons in the shape of a pumpkin. Now, I did have mine somewhat assembled at one point, and then I had it on the table, and my hubby decided that he was going to move it and destroy the pumpkin, and I could have died. So now we need to redo it because I actually liked how it was. And that's the whole thing. Like, I assembled the pumpkin and then I tweaked it. I went in and I moved buttons where I thought they needed to be. Now here's that spot of glue that we stuck down earlier to keep the fabric attached to the batting, okay? So, I mean, in all honesty, I could probably use any size button to cover it. Nobody's really gonna notice, but because this button is so unique, I kind of want him maybe towards the middle. And I know I kind of want to do my large buttons, they're going to be strategically placed because I don't want like two of the same buttons right beside each other, two large buttons, okay? So, and these are like two of the same buttons. One has thread, one doesn't. I'm keeping them exactly that way. All right, so I'm just gonna start assembling buttons, okay? And this is where you're just gonna start pulling buttons in, moving them around however you think you like them. Like I said, we're gonna stay at least 1 inch in from the edge, okay? And my pumpkin's gonna be wider than it is tall. Okay, these are probably my 2 biggest buttons. And I'm just gonna start throwing buttons on, and then we're gonna move them into places where we think we want them. Here's another tip, okay? You might have one button that looks like this, okay? And then another one that looks like this. You can always flip one to make it look different. And sometimes even the back might look different than the front color-wise. So experiment, have fun. Don't be afraid to try different things. I could glue this down like that button right here, okay? But I'm choosing, I wanna glue it down like that. Okay, so when I come back, I'm going to show you how I assembled all of my buttons. All right, so I just spent the last couple minutes assembling my pumpkin, and I'm pretty happy with the shape. I have gone back and forth and pulled stuff out, and put stuff in, and moved stuff, and you know, move stuff closer together. So, and that's kind of what you have to do. You pretty much just have to play with it, see what you like, what you don't like, and go from there. If there's anything I'm going to tweak, it's going to be how close this is to the top, because this is a little close, but I mean, I think it's doable. I think it's fine. So the next part of the whole craft is gluing your buttons down. And we're gonna start. So we're gonna take our 3-in-1 again from Beacon. Like I said before, if you have not used this glue yet, you definitely wanna try it. The Beacon makes Fabri-Tac, which is my very, very, very favorite glue. This one has a wide range of uses. and different mediums that you can use it on. It has such phenomenal holding power, which is why I love it. All right, so I'm just going to take my glue and if you want to use hot glue, like I said before, you can do that too. It doesn't have to be glue from a squeeze bottle. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through and I'm going to glue everything down. And I can't wait to see how it turns out. And then later on, when my husband gets home, he's going to cut out the frame and then we'll tie everything up at the very end. So let me get these babies glued on here and then I'm going to show you what it looks like once they're all secure. Okay guys, I'm back and it's actually a different day, but my pumpkin turned out really well. I don't know if I showed this the other day, but I'm really happy with how everything turned out. So next in the process is adding the wood slats to the edges. Now you can always go out and buy a picture frame and start with that if you don't have wood or you don't have anybody to cut the wood or any way to work with that. So you'd pick your picture frame probably first, that's the size that you want, and then base your cardboard and everything off of that. You can remove the back of the picture frame and even take the glass out and just use the actual frame itself. You don't have to use the glass in it. So keep that in mind if you are having trouble maybe finding wood or it's just not something that's easily accessible to you. But I had my husband cut this wood for me over the weekend, and what I've chosen to do is I'm going to assemble mine like this, okay? So basically what's going to happen is I'm going to glue all the edges together and then glue it onto the background, okay? So what I would need to do would be to glue these pieces together and then glue the bottom piece on and then just lay it on the picture and glue it down, okay? So to do that, I'm going to open up my glue and I'm gonna grab something to lay under it. And I'm gonna just make sure that I have this the way I want it. Okay. And I have to be careful because I really did a number on my fingernail polish last week. And I just painted my nails last night, so I don't want my fingernail polish to get all ruined today. But I'm going to do that. Okay, I'm gonna let that dry. And as you can see, the frame turned out really well. And I have to tell you what happened. Okay, so yes, I'm in my third different outfit because this is another day. I glued my frame yesterday and I laid it down and everything was going fine, but it was not adhering very well. The sections that were supposed to be glued together. So what I did was I broke out the old staple gun, and what happened was, I don't know if the wood was too hard, or I think it's a problem with the staple gun itself. It kept jamming on me. So what I ended up doing was I put a staple. I actually put 2 staples in each corner. But actually, okay, so I didn't. But I wanted to use the staple gun. I had major issues, so I had to end up waiting for my husband to get home so that he could figure out what the problem was with the staple gun. And for him, it even gave him some issues. So like this one, we only have 1 staple. But anyways, the whole point is, once you have your wood measured and you're gluing it together, if you have to reinforce it with staples, I would do that just so that it's good to go, it's tight, it's secure. So that's what I would do if you're not using the picture frame like I had suggested yesterday. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do now. We're gonna take our frame and we are going to glue it to the pumpkin picture, okay? Now, because I don't know exactly where I'm gonna be putting it, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a bead around the edge, okay? And if I have to go in under the frame, I will do that. Okay, so once again, I'm going to try not to ruin my nail polish because it's still looking pretty good today. Second day with it. Last time when I was doing the actual buttons, oh my gosh, my nail polish was trashed. But that's because this glue eats the nail polish. Okay, so I'm putting a nice bead along the entire edge of the picture. I'm staying kind of close to the edge because honestly I'm not quite sure how far in it'll go. Okay. All right. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and line up the picture frame and move it to where I think it looks best. Okay. And then I'm going to press it down. Okay. And then we're going to let that dry. I'm going to flip it over and see if I need to tack it down anywhere else. All right, so everything is nice and secure and dry, and I'm going to hold it up for you. Here it is. There is the finished product. You can see. Let's see if I can back up here a minute. My cat is taking a bath behind me. I don't want to trip over her. So I put it on this table with the swan and a crock, some pumpkins. Those are the pumpkins and gourd. They came from Target at the little dollar spot. They were each $1. And they're so cute. But I love how the picture turned out. I'm gonna come in here. I could just zoom. Let's see.